emails are nakedly political. It is abundantly clear that the driving motivation is protecting the political interest of the president rather than telling the truth about what happened or getting to the bottom of it. And the White House held on to these emails for a long, long time, and I think that was the last straw for the Speaker, where the White House's intransigence, he decided it was time to get to the bottom of it.
All right, but, the other side blames Republicans for being nakedly political and trying to seize this initiative and take a moment and a crisis that might not be there. You say what?
Well, look, I think it is unfortunate to see the Democrat Party circling the wagons around President Obama and Hillary Clinton and treating the death by terrorist attack of 4 Americans as nothing but a political inconvenience. It's been 19 months, almost 20 months. We have 4 dead Americans. We have the first dead U.S. ambassador killed in service since 1979. And in the 19 months that have followed, we don't have a single dead terrorist. We don't have a single terrorist apprehended. And what we've seen from the president, from Senate Democrats, has been stonewalling, where there are basic questions that should have been answered over a year ago. Number one, why did the State Department repeatedly refuse to provide additional security as was requested by our personnel on the ground? Number two, why did we not have military assets in place to protect our men and women on the anniversary of September 11th when there was increased terrorist activity in the region? And number three, during the attack, why didn't we send in forces to protect those men? And number four, critically, in the 19 months that have followed, why has no one been apprehended, no one been brought to justice? Neil, you and I both remember during the presidential debate on foreign policy where President Obama looked in the television camera and said, "No one is more upset about what happened in Benghazi than I am." He got quite offended. It's striking that 19 months later, it seems the president never utters the word Benghazi. I mean, giving him the benefit of the doubt, if he were speaking the truth, if he cared about it, you would think that wouldn't be the last time he would mention it. We need to get to the truth, and that should be a bipartisan objective.
All right, well, it doesn't appear that it will be bipartisan. It will probably be just Republicans leading the charge for now. Does that weaken whatever findings this commission will have?
Well, look, if the Democrats choose to politicize it, that is their choice. In my view, this shouldn't just be a select committee. This should be a joint select committee. It should be both houses. Because
but if they
when our
opt out, Senator, if they opt out for whatever reason, because they'll claim you're being just as political, then do we go nowhere fast? I mean, I think it was you said when we were first discussing this shortly after Benghazi, I think you said, Neil, I don't know what the president knew at the time of Benghazi. I do know that the very next day he was on a plane for a fundraiser in Las Vegas, and that you found offensive. Is that about as much as we can glean all these months after the fact?
Well, look, we still don't know what the president did during the attack. We don't know if he was even awake or asleep. Hillary Clinton famously ran those ads about him being there, who's going to answer the 3 a.m. call. As far as we know, as far as been made public, both Secretary Clinton and the president were sound asleep during the 3 a.m. call.
But they came up with talking points.
Happening.
I'm sorry, Senator. They came up with talking points. Now, they would not be the first administration to come up with talking points to discuss a crisis. Your point, and what you bring to these emails that came to light, is that these were deliberately deceiving talking points, and they knew that. Is that the gist of what's going on here, and is that the reason why you think Speaker Boehner is pursuing this to the degree he is?
I think the deliberately deceiving and partisan talking points that they withheld for almost 2 years was what finally prompted forming this select committee. But I've been calling for a joint select committee for over a year now. In fact, I've introduced a resolution in the Senate that has 24 Senate co-sponsors calling for a joint select committee. And I understand the Democrats like to pretend it's tit for tat. Well, we're partisan, they're partisan, everyone's partisan. You know what, Neil? The truth shouldn't be partisan. Finding out what happened, finding out how we could have prevented it, and acting to actually apprehend these guys, that should not be partisan. Politics should end at the water's edge. And it is highly dismaying to see Democrats just circling the wagon saying, we don't want to know the truth because it might be politically inconvenient. That's not the responsibility of any elected official.
What do you think of an official at the time telling our own Brett Baer, it was 2 years ago, dude?
Well, look, I mean, that reflects the cavalier attitude of this administration. It's all politics. It is purely a matter of political spin. And it's the pattern they play on every scandal, where when it breaks, whatever the scandal, they say, we're very concerned, then they stonewall, and then after some months pass, they say, oh, that's ancient history. And it's a pattern they follow. They follow on Benghazi, they follow on the IRS, they follow on Fast and Furious. Every time there is a scandal, it's like they have a playbook where they claim to be outraged, then they stonewall, then they say it's ancient history, no reason to
well, then let me ask you this, sir. I mean, you are always mentioned in the top tier of potential Republican presidential candidates. You're always number 1, 2, or 3, depending on the sampling. So let's say this were to drag on until 2016 and beyond, and you get elected president of the United States. Would you urge a continuing of this investigation if you still have no answers? Would a President Cruz still be pursuing this?
Well, look, I certainly hope that the Select Committee is able to get answers. I hope we're able to bring those terrorists to justice, as President Obama claimed on a national debate that he had a top priority of doing. But if we get to 2017 and the administrations continue to stonewall, Democrats have continued to stonewall, then absolutely the next president should pursue the truth. You know, one of the things, Neil, we know is the Deputy Chief of Mission, a career Foreign Service officer, was told by Hillary Clinton's chief political aide, keep your mouth shut, don't talk to Congress, don't talk to the press. You know, the degree of political manipulation, rather than finding out why terrorists attacked us, how we were vulnerable, how we can prevent it, and how we can go and bring them to justice.
What if they were just dumb and clueless?
Well, look, and you know, I had an old boss of mine who used to say, never attribute to malice what can be explained with incompetence. And so, look, were mistakes made here? I'm sure they were. But that's what makes the value of a fair and impartial inquiry so important, because you learn from the mistakes not to do it again.
Senator Cruz, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Neil.
All right, fair and balanced. Tennessee Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen, he thinks this whole committee thing is unnecessary. He will not be playing any part in it. So I guess, Congressman, if asked, you will not serve.
No, I wouldn't, and it's good to be back. I feel like I'm at home with this FedEx truck outside.
Indeed, I forgot that. The last time you were here, we had a FedEx truck. Yeah. So guys, be leery of that. But Congressman, what do you think of what Senator Cruz is saying? What is the harm in getting a bipartisan committee to get to the bottom of this?
Because the ISIS committee, government oversight, has been studying this and studying and studying it. They've gotten 14 Pinocchios. That's not a good thing to get
no
from the
gotten
Washington
any
Post.
Answers, though.
Well, that's right. And tell me the last time that a government select committee found any proof of anything.
Do you think we're due answers?
Well, I think we're due answers, but I don't think a government select committee is going to find them. I guarantee you that the State Department and the Defense Department is trying to find the terrorists, and they will find them, and they will bring them to justice.
But they haven't yet.
Well, it takes time. It took a long time for, for the president to get Osama bin Laden, but he got him. But the
administration also said it would get to the bottom of this, and I think it fuels this cynicism. And you're right, politics plays on both sides. That they're really not interested in getting to the bottom of this. What do you say?
Well, I don't think there's any malfeasance whatsoever, and I don't think that anybody should suggest.
But how would you know? These emails that came to light at least showed an orchestrated effort to present talking points that were based on lies.
Well, I don't know if they were based on lies they thought was the truth, and there were protests in the Middle East over the film and the anti-Islamic mood that was here that went over there.
But they quickly knew that was not the case. So are you satisfied with the fact that they leapt on something that they knew to be wrong?
I don't know if they knew it to be wrong or not. I think maybe they thought it was right. But the bottom line is this isn't something that needs a new committee. Yeah. Speaker Boehner on the 8th of April said there's no need for another committee.
But then, of course, these emails came to light and even gave him pause.
It's politics.
Does it give
the
you
polls
pause?
have also come out that says nobody can run against Hillary Clinton, and this is all about Hillary Clinton.
Right. Do you find anything about the timing, regardless of what the president knew and when he knew it, that the very next day he was on a fundraising event in Las Vegas, criticizing his opponent for making political hay of this, when he was raising money in the middle of an election for this the next day, and an ambassador had been killed?
Everybody grieves the ambassador's death, but the president was in the midst of an election.
I know that, but he grieved and then within hours was raising money. I mean,
well, you have a crisis constantly when you're the President of the United States.
Not of this magnitude.
Well, we've had lots of them, and I just submit that the President...
Doesn't the death of a representative of this country eclipse crises that might be more domestic in nature?
If that's the issue that's important, then yes, he went to Las Vegas, and maybe politically, in a way, he shouldn't have done that. But that's not a need for a government select committee.
And either way, you don't want to be part of this investigation.
No, and I don't think I think the ISIS committee has studied, and Buck McKeon, who's the head of the Armed Forces Committee, a Republican, has already attacked ISIS committee and condemned them for the general they brought before him last week, saying that they were totally wrong, and the military did nothing wrong, and based on the resources they had, they did everything right.
So you think the Republicans are making hay of this? Republicans think you're not making hay of it by dismissing this. This is going to go nowhere, right?
It's going to continue until Hillary Clinton is elected president, and then...
You're sure of that?
Yes. And you remember, I was sure that the Dow was going to get over 14,000 a long time ago.
Yes,
and now it's
were.
at 16,000.
Absolutely you were.
We need to be bullish on America.
Thank you for stopping by, as always. Congressman Steve Cohen, the fine state of Tennessee. Well, bet you know who the Republican candidate was last time for president, right? Do you know who finished second to him? And do you know history suggests usually that means he's the nominee next time, after this?